So I'm using Froby for the intro of this video because we need like a really good player for the intro, because the video itself is not going to be the prettiest in the world, as you probably figured out from the title and the thumbnail. We're going to be going through the worst player on every single NBA team, at least in my opinion. This weirdly could be very subjective, I don't know. And I want to give this to guys who actually play some minutes. Like if you play 0 minutes, then I don't know, it's not as fun. But then some teams it was like, well, I have to kind of go with the guy who only plays 5 minutes. Whatever. You'll find some reason to yell at me in the comments. It's all good. Just do it respectfully, that's all I say. We're going to start with the Washington Wizards' Jason Smith, who might be a god from mid-range, but the moment you ask him to do anything besides that, it's pretty much a lost cause. Play defense, grab a rebound, do anything besides shoot a wide-open mid-range jumper, it's not going to happen. For the Golden State Warriors, James Michael McAdoo, and this clip shows him doing not much of anything, because, I mean, that's pretty much all that happens. He plays about 8 minutes a game for the Warriors, and I don't ever see him do a damn thing. For the Portland Trail Blazers, Meyers Leonard, who shoots like 35% from the field, even though he's a big man, and he's a shooting big man who can't shoot. He's also being paid like $10 million a season by the Blazers, and I don't know what the hell that is, and it's Meyers Leonard. What are you going to do? For the Timberwolves, this one hurts me a little bit. I still got to give it to Ricky Rubio. He hurts them on both sides of the floor. When he's in the game, they're worse defensively. They're also worse offensively. Potentially the worst shooting player in the NBA, even if he still gets like 7 or 8 assists a game. If you can't make a shot, you're just not a good player overall. For the Oklahoma City Thunder, that is Anthony Morrow, who shoots like 30% from 3 this season. The worst is a guy who shoots who also can't shoot. Like, what do? You're just floating around there. For the Phoenix Suns, and this one might surprise you, Brandon Knight has been awful this season. Remember when he was in trade talks with the Sixers? Like, everyone's like, oh, they could trade him for Jahlil Okafor or Nerlens Noel. He just kind of sucks this year. It's not going good at all. Now, the Spurs are one of those teams that make this weird. I have to go with Kyle Anderson just because they have so many good, like, role players, and all of them play like decent minutes. Anderson's kind of the winner or loser here by default, but he's actually not that bad of a player, so sorry Kyle, I guess. For the Rockets, we gotta go with Corey Brewer, who has been one of the worst rotation players in the NBA this season. Cannot shoot from anywhere, cannot play defense, and if you can't do those two things and you're coming off the bench, what do you do? I mean, he kind of runs around with like a chicken with its head cut off, that's about it. For the Toronto Raptors, Jared Sullinger, who is always dealing with weight issues and can't really shoot, can't finish well around the basket. Don't ask him to move around the floor and play defense. He can grab a rebound, so that's cool, but that's about it. For the Detroit Pistons, Aaron Baines, who, to be fair, he's not like the worst backup center in the world. He shoots below league average at the rim, which is still not good, but some of these, like, the guys aren't necessarily terrible players, but I have to pick someone. Now, on the flip side of that, Omer Asik for the Pelicans is god-awful. At one time with the Rockets, he was like a double-double machine who was like a brick wall on defense, and now him and basketball just don't mix for whatever reason. For the Indiana Pacers, Monte Ellis, who I've kind of harped on a lot this season. I don't know, at one time he was slightly inefficient, but an effective scorer nonetheless, and it just fell off a cliff this season with Indiana. For the Nuggets, this one hurts me a little bit. I have to go with Jamal Murray, who I think is going to be an awesome player. But when we're talking about this season and how inefficient he's been outside of like December, I kind of have to put him here, but it hurts me inside to do so because I think he's going to be really good. For the Brooklyn Nets, Randy Foye, who is actually the garbage time MVP. If you ever find a Randy Foye game and it's a blowout in the last 5 minutes, stick around because he's going to turn into Michael Jordan. For the Dallas Mavericks, Devin Harris, who was actually pretty good at one time, but now he can't make a shot to save his life, and he's losing out minutes to JJ Barea, who still manages to be pretty good only when he's coached by Rick Carlisle. Now, at one time, Jeff Green seemed like a promising basketball player given his height and his athleticism, but his lack of defense, outside shooting, as well as just assertiveness when it comes to scoring, he's just kind of a blah player who's currently on the Magic, so they get to deal with him for the rest of this season. Now, I remember when Jose Calderon was traded for Tyson Chandler and he had like a 40-year deal, and I was like, does Phil Jackson know what he's getting into with him? Now he's currently on the Lakers. Hey, you know what? At one time he was like quietly one of the best passers in the NBA, but Those days are long gone for Jose. Now this one's gonna hurt me a little bit too. I have to do Joakim Noah of the Knicks, who I would prefer not to keep mentioning that he hasn't been good this season, but unfortunately this is the video I'm doing, so I have to mention Noah and his lack of defense, but hey, you know what? I just did a video on Hernan Gomez yesterday, so it's fine. For the Kings, Ben Macklemore. I was thinking you could be a real player, and perhaps you still can be on a different team, but at this point, what you're doing for the Kings, it's just not very good. Boris Diaw. Every now and then will show off the passing or a three-point shot that makes you think, oh yeah, he still got it. But from a play-to-play standpoint, the lack of defense and the fact that he can really only post up on guys who are 5 feet tall, Boris just ain't that great. For the Hornets, Frank Kaminsky, who might be the best player in the NBA whose name starts with F, but he's also pretty bad as well. He can't make a basket. He's a shooter who can't shoot. And it's at the center position that's like the worst thing ever. For the Miami Heat, Derek Williams, who's the classic case of not big and strong enough to be a power forward, but not skilled enough to be a small forward. If anyone could ever learn how to shoot threes, it would have to be this guy, but he's just never done it. Malcolm Delaney of the Atlanta Hawks, who they are using as a backup point guard, one of the least efficient players in the NBA, and he's like 27 years old, so I don't think his upside is that high. Although he did have a nice game yesterday, so that's good. For the Memphis Grizzlies, Tony Douglas, who I think at one point was like a god in some 2K that I don't remember, being someone who could like make every single three-pointer. But where he is now for the Grizz, he's just not that good. Pretty much all there is. For the Clippers, we got Wesley Johnson, who my cousin was a big fan of because my cousin likes Syracuse basketball. He would be perfect for the Clips if he could just make a three-point shot because he's got some decent enough athleticism, but he just hasn't been able to figure it out. Now for the Celtics, we have James Young, and they've been looking for a backup shooting guard, and he's never been able to get on the floor. So I have to assume he's not that good. For the Cavaliers, we have to go with James Jones, who's been following LeBron around so much. Can we consider him a stalker at this point? If LeBron's there, James Jones is too. Isaiah Cannon, or Canaan, because I never know his last name, for the Chicago Bulls, also a three-point shooter who can't shoot. I think at one time he was actually kind of okay, but those days are definitely long gone. For the Milwaukee Bucks, Roy Hibbert, and this one is deceptive because he just got traded to there, so as a result, he immediately trumps everyone on the team and becomes the worst player, because at one time he was a hell of a rim protector, and now he's not, after Lance Stevenson yelled at him a bunch of times. And to round this thing out, the Philadelphia 76ers, Sergio Rodriguez. He's actually at like 35% from three, but he's also god-awful when it comes to scoring and defense and anything besides just hitting a guy for an open pass. So there you go. The worst player on every single NBA team. And to round this thing out, we're going to show LeBron James because we have to get some more like good stuff here because that middle portion, man, there wasn't a lot of beautiful sights to be seen there. Although some guys probably made some shots in the footage because, I don't know, I'm just bad at making videos. So that's going to do it. Enjoy the Super Bowl, and I'm done.